The final round of the Emirates Australian Open Championship promised to be an entertaining and enthralling day, and that's exactly the way it turned out. It didn't quite turn out the way Adam Scott would have hoped, but after missing the green right here at the first, the past champion came up with an excellent second shot and was able to make an early birdie, but unfortunately he didn't make enough as the day progressed to 73 for Adam Scott. Jason Scrivener put himself up into contention. Here he is with his second shot to the first. And he backed it up with a birdie at the second as well to go out in 34 and to give himself a real hope in his National Open. Jordan Spieth, so many times this week, has been in the trap at one. So many times he's put it up to within birdie range. And Sunday was no exception. And the past champion of 2014 was off to a great start. Rod Pampling, in contrast, made a solid start, if unspectacular. Pass at the first couple, but then this at the third. And things were starting to look a bit better for the man who won in the States a couple of weeks ago. Aaron Baddeley's already won this championship twice. This was a piece of brilliance, playing a flop shot at the second. And that set up a birdie, and his charge was kick-started at that moment. Ryan Fox of New Zealand was simply brilliant to watch all the way through this week. His devil-may-care attitude has served him well, and here's another example of it. Chip-in birdie at the fourth for the Kiwi. Making a charge on the final day, Johnny Vegas of Venezuela. Here he is at the 14th. He'd gone out in 33, picked up a birdie at 12, birdie at 13. And set up another one there at the short 14th hole. He would eventually go on to shoot 67 and fall just short. For a lot of the day, it looked like this man, Geoff Ogilvy, was going to be the Australian Open champion. Bit of a slow start. He looked a little flat early on, but this got things into gear. A birdie putt at 5. And the Victorian perhaps was on his way. Ash Hall also contending in 2016, and the big man with great touch with his second at 12. He'd gone out in 32, so that put him 5 under par for the day. Ogilvy came up short at the 7th and then produced a piece of brilliance which was likely at the time to be a pivotal moment. A chip-in eagle for Geoff Ogilvy at 7, and it looked as though it might have been his day. But Cameron Smith, the young Queenslander, had something to say about that. Here he is with a birdie putt at 12, and he was on the march as well, making birdies at 12 and 13. Ogilvy then, the pressure was on to keep on coming up with birdies, and that's exactly what he did. Chipping at the short par 4 8th to set up another birdie. But they were going stride for stride, if you like, because Cameron Smith, after those 2 birdies at 12 and 13, had this at the 14th hole, measuring 178 metres today. And the Queenslander putting it just about stone dead, and that was 3 birdies on the bounce. Ash Hall had the green shirt on, green for go on this Sunday. Here he is at the 16th. It was a difficult par 5 into the breeze. Look at that, pulling the string on it and getting it to within birdie range. And that gave him a real chance of being the man who might hold up the trophy at the end of the day. Jordan Spieth, well, he was looking shaky at various times, but he just hung in there and showed the qualities of a champion, including this, his second shot at 12. Check up, in birdie range, and Jordan was still hanging in there. Jason Scrivener out of the trap at 13. At the par 5. Very nearly holing it. And he kept his hopes of victory alive. Ryan Fox was starting to run out of holes, but this at 13 certainly helped as he went on to make birdie there. That was an eagle putt. Cameron Smith at 17 at this stage was for the outright lead He got it. He was joined by Jeff Ogilvy not long later. But what about this for a pressure putt? Ash Hall, the world number 902 at the final hole to maybe get in a playoff. Nerves of steel from the 33-year-old. Things were starting to go wrong for Jeff Ogilvy. He drove it in the trees at 16. This was his second shot. It stayed in there, and effectively that was the end of his challenge. Up ahead at 18, Rod Pampling wasn't going to get the victory. But Jordan Spieth quite possibly was. And here he is with the putt in the playoff. It turned into a three-way playoff. As it turns out, that was the winning putt for Jordan Spieth. Ash Hall wasn't able to make birdie, and neither was Cam Smith. And Jordan Spieth is the champion in Australia in 2016. The final leaderboard looked like this. Spieth, Hall and Smith locked at 12 under. Spieth victorious on the first playoff hole. Jason Scrivener, Rod Pampling, Ryan Fox, Aaron Baddeley and Jeff Ogilvy finishing 2 shots out of the lead. We had 8 players within 2 at the end of the day, but what we also had was a worthy champion. Jordan Spieth is Australian Open champion for the second time.